city team here from multiple departments to give an update about the operation that took place yesterday here at the Loma Verde Motel. Thank y'all for coming out. We'll give a brief overview from the departments about what the staff did here yesterday, and then we'll have some time for questions. So to give it, yes.
When you guys are speaking, if you could speak closer to those.
Oh, yep.
Microphones are picking up more of the traffic than anything else right now.
All right, great, we'll do it. So speakers, please get close to this mic stand here at the lav mics, and I'll turn it over to Mayor Keller.
All right, well, I know it's a cold morning. Appreciate everyone coming out today. Our city layered approach to law enforcement was in full force yesterday at this location at the Loma Verde Hotel. And I think in many ways this is a real sad reflection on what can happen, unfortunately, at some of our drivers of crime, these physical places that have become nests for all sorts of illegal and inappropriate and inhumane behavior. And so the city has now closed this hotel, and we're going to walk you through exactly what happened and what we found. And this is also something we never want to have to do, but we absolutely will enforce our laws, especially in situations when they are this bad. So we're going to go through it in some detail, but I want to highlight briefly some of the aspects of this. So this is the Loma Verde Motel off Central, and for us, this literally was found to have unlivable conditions. We had a hotbed of criminal activity here, 150 calls for service, 40 arrests just in 2024, 2 homicides, 12 robberies, 4 batteries, 5 assaults, and 10 warrant calls. And yes, we responded to all of those calls. That's why we know they're in the system. But at some point, the place is part of the problem. And with these problematic motels, this is what we're seeing. Inspections yesterday also found hazardous living conditions, leaking roofs, damaged electrical fixtures, cockroach infestations, broken doors and windows, and no heating. In fact, we may have actually saved lives by getting people out of here yesterday because last night was so cold. And so for us, there's also non-functional plumbing. So people were just doing what they need to do in the back and so forth. This place was literally disgusting. And they were also preying on people here. As you can imagine, in these situations, there's a lack of control in a sense that rents were being charged around $1,000 to live in one of these inhospitable, non-heated apartment buildings that are not even supposed to be apartments. Now, what we did is, of course, we made sure and to help the people, number one. We were able to get every person who is here help that they needed and a place to stay. That's what our community safety department will talk about. We also made sure that we dealt with a massive animal issue. There were 14 dogs and 3 cats just in 2 facilities. Our animal welfare department appropriately handled those, and they'll be processed and I'm sure at some point up for adoption if appropriate. Now, for us, this is unfortunately not the first time we've had to do this. And we also want to share that we are reaching out and want to signal to any owner of a hotel. If you feel out of control, like your hotel has been taken over by criminal elements, you're unable to enforce your own rules, please contact our code enforcement and law enforcement right away. We do not want to have to do this, but we absolutely will in these situations. And so, again, we don't want to have to do this, but we've got to have folks telling us that they've lost control. They can't enforce appropriate rent. They can't enforce the laws. They can't enforce the fact that you have a 30-day minimum stay. They can't get repairs done. All of those things, please tell us, or else we will close your hotel. That is also the message. We are not going to tolerate these kinds of facilities in the city of Albuquerque. Now, I also want to mention that we're going to try and work with City Council on some legislation to help with this. Because what we want to do is catch this earlier and essentially put folks on a program where they are required to do things like keep IDs and credit card information and license plates of folks who are staying, so that we can make sure and do appropriate law enforcement if needed in specific hotel rooms instead of having to go after the hotel. So we're asking for folks to voluntarily do this right now, and we're going to be working with our city council, and we may just have to make it the law that folks have to do that if they meet certain criminal activity criteria. So with more on this, let's hear from our departments who are involved in this work, and we're going to start with our Director of Planning, Alan Varela. Alan?
Good morning. The Code Enforcement Department was able to work with the owner in this property. We did get consent to come to the property and conduct inspections. We knew there would be lots of problems, but it was beyond what we even imagined. We began our action yesterday morning at approximately 10 a.m. Within a few minutes of that, we could see that the rooms were entirely inhabitable. These are small, stark rooms, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet in size, with a very tiny restroom space, no door to the restroom. If there was a door, it'd be broken. Holes in walls, exposed electrical wiring, non-working heaters within most of the rooms. Just one problem after another, mold on the ceilings, you name it. It were conditions that nobody should be living in and that no property owner, frankly, should be allowed to exist on their property. We're prepared to work on more of these throughout town, and as the mayor said, if you're having problems with your property, if you feel that you've been overwhelmed or for some reason or other you just aren't able to manage it anymore and these conditions are beginning to exist or existing, we are coming. It's just a matter of time, and you're better off if you call us for help. Our goal is to close these down and keep them closed until they become legitimately what they were intended to be, which is nice hotels in this area along Route 66. And so that's our goal, and we're going to achieve our goal. We did work with several different departments on this. Animal welfare was a big help, environmental health as well, Albuquerque Fire Rescue, and then of course the police department was available in case we needed their services. And we want to thank all those departments, and especially the people of Albuquerque, and let you know that you deserve better. If you're staying in one of these hotels, you deserve better. And if you're a property owner, you need to be a better neighbor for the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Now, part of this too, in terms of the situation with the actual building structure, we always want to make sure things are safe with respect to fire, and that's why our fire marshal is always involved. So let's bring up Fire Marshal Garcia.
Good morning. Yesterday, the Albuquerque Fire Marshal's Office also conducted a fire and life safety inspections on the property with code enforcement. We found multiple violations concerning all the fire extinguishers were outdated. We also found that most of the smoke detectors in all the rooms were missing, and those that had smoke detectors, they were inoperable. We found multiple electrical hazards and also multiple exit obstructions. So again, just finding multiple violations that would hinder and life safety. We'll continue to do these inspections on these type of properties. We also accept any kind of referrals from the public. If you see anything, if you ever stay at a place of business, know anyone that is, please call the Fire Marshal's Office. Our ADAPT program is continuing to work with these businesses, and we're working with the Mayor's Office and trying to figure out how we can strengthen our code enforcement on these properties.
So just to put these two departments together, so what we found is essentially a very, very dangerous tinderbox. There's no fire working smoke detectors, there's no heat, and there's no way to get out. That's what happens when you put all these things together. This was an extremely dangerous living situation. And that's not even including the criminal aspect of this, which now we want to talk about with our Police Chief, Harold Medina.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being out here. And, Mayor talked about it, the crime stats. 78 shots fired here in the last year, 2 homicides, 40 arrests. But, I want to talk about a little different aspect that sometimes we tend to overlook. And with that, I want to thank Code Enforcement, Fire Department, ACS, for being out here each and every day trying to provide services to the people that are here. We have ACS out here trying to give services to people. We have Fire Department responding to medical calls. We have Code Enforcement trying to increase the quality of living for individuals who are staying here. all the time, this place is a dangerous place. People have lost their lives. People have been killed. And we have our unarmed civilians out here each and every day, and we owe it to them to be proactive, to continue to close down these places that are attracting crime. Our officers are at risk every time they get dispatched to one of these locations. And each time that we could close one of these locations down that have become a hub of violent crime, criminal activity, we increase the likelihood of the safety of all of our city employees and people who are out here. I guarantee you each and every month there's a P&M employee out here reading meters. There's a gas company of New Mexico employee out here. We need to continue to do everything we can to read these locations, not just for the people who are staying here, but for the safety of the public that are serving the community as a whole. So we're committed to continue to work in closing down these nests of violence, crime, and to ensure that we do everything as a police department we can to continue to hold individuals accountable and increase the quality of living in the city of Albuquerque. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Now, as I mentioned, part of this is making sure that we have a place and help for the folks who are actually here. And that's what our ACS department was in charge of. So let's bring up our director, Jody Escobar. Everyone's over there. I keep doing that.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Escobar, the director of ACS. I do just want to pause and talk about the teamwork that took place here, and we're happy to be here, right? Our mission is to make sure that our community feels safe and supported in the way that we should be able to. We didn't want anybody to end up with a space in the cold, right? And so the 19 individuals that we connected with in this space were all of them that wanted to go to a different area were located somewhere else in a safe space so that they could start to feel normal again, so that they could feel some normalcy and some stability. We connected those folks with our Cora team. And so that Cora team will continue to walk through these folks to understand where they can go next from here. So we're not just moving them to somewhere else and there's no solution, right? So we want to make sure that we continue to walk with our community through this transition period so that they feel supported. We are happy to add this element to this team to make sure that nobody is left out on the street or in the cold right now. And so I'm thankful that we were here and be able to have so much success that we were here.
Thanks so much, Jody. And we also had to deal with the animals that we mentioned where we're in a very dangerous position for them. And so fortunately, animal welfare was here as well. And so I don't know, Carolyn, if you're, so our director, Carolyn Ortega.
Good morning, I'm Carolyn Ortega and I'm the director of Albuquerque Animal Welfare. We're so proud to be part of this effort and understanding that this was really a holistic approach towards correcting a long-going issue. And by doing that, we were able to have our animal protection officers here yesterday, and we saw some unexpected things. We actually were able to take into custody 18 pets yesterday. 18 pets in this size of facility is really a concern. So we took all of the 18 pets who all appeared to be healthy. We took them to the West Side Animal Shelter, and they will receive all of the medical care that they need there, and we will hold on to those so that the people who do own them and care for them can find a place to settle and to reside, and then to be able to take their pets back, making sure that they're aware of our ordinances and that they're going to be in compliance with those ordinances as well, and providing them with additional options for making sure that those pets are well taken care of going forward. So we really, again, appreciate being part of this effort.
Okay, now I think we'll certainly take some questions and stuff. Stacy, do you want to moderate?
And I think I was able to mention this. We do have some photos that we'll be sending out from inside the units here, so expect those within the next couple of hours from the planning department. But we'll start off questions with Matt Risen from the Journal.
Was any with the TWA, you guys found drugs, ammo, guns, those sort of words. Was there any illegal activity?
You know, Matt, we took a little bit of a different approach on this than we did on the TIWA from the lessons that we learned how we could do stuff better. And one of the things we did is we basically had this cleared out as much criminal activity. Like a few days before code enforcement got out here, we had executed a number of arrests and taken people into custody. So this has been in the works for us for about a month that we've been watching this, and we've been strategically taking out key criminals that we felt were problematic and that we knew were residing here. We had eyes on the homicide offender who was captured here. We knew he was here, and we had eyes on the location, trying to take him into custody for about 2-3 weeks before we actually took him into custody. I think it was somewhere around there. So yeah, we had our eyes on it, and we tried to rid a lot of the criminal activity. So it's not surprising to us that the day code enforcement got out here that a lot of the criminal activity we found at the other location wasn't found here because it was already addressed.
Chief, can you talk about how taking this motel out of the equation now kind of frees up your officers to take other calls to have service here?
You know, I wish I could say that it's going to free them up to go take other calls, but what it's going to do is it's going to free us up because we're going to move to the next problematic hotel. I wish I could sit here and tell the citizens of Albuquerque, hey, we got the one motel out of the way. Started with Tiwa Lodge, we moved here, and it's my commitment to the city that we're going to move to the next hotel. And then after that, we're going to move to the next hotel. So if you are a hotel owner and you have criminal activity occurring there, eventually, I promise you, we will get there.
Any other questions for folks? Matt?
The pets were they surrendered by the owners? How does that work?
Yeah, we'll have animal welfare talk about the care of those animals that were here.
They have not been surrendered by the owners. We're a short-term location for them to stay safe. But when they do come forward to talk about what their next steps are, then we'll have those conversations with them. One owner had 14 pets, which is outside of our ordinance. So we'll have the conversation with them about possibly surrendering many of those and keeping some as well.
I guess what I'm wondering is, like, were they willingly, like, letting you guys take these pets, or, like...
Yes, they actually did. They were very cooperative, the ones that we did take. Some did choose to take their pets with them because they didn't want to be separated by them. But I think in this effort, in showing them that we're willing to be a safe haven for their pets while they get their feet back on the ground, hopefully we'll see more of this happening so that we're not putting those pets and those people in jeopardy by not trusting that we're going to provide these resources.
And I just want to clarify, so those animals that the director mentioned are being cared for by the department right now. They're not available for adoption, but they're being fed and monitored, and there's the opportunity for the owners to reclaim them through the animal welfare department. So,
Nick, I just want to add one thing on because you brought the question up about going forward, and we've been very delighted this week that we were contacted both by BCSO and the district attorney's office that they want to join in our operations that we're conducting against the hotels. And we take that with open arms. Anytime you can help us with this and we could conduct more operations, we're all about it. So it does make an impact. It is something the community wants to see, and hopefully with more resources coming to the table along with us and other entities that are working with us, that we'll be able to increase the amount of operations that we do at these hotels.
What's the dream goal to return Route 66 back to, like, the neon lights and the tourists and all that?
So we do have a vision because the 100th anniversary of Route 66 is coming up, and it's going to be starting this summer. It's about an 18-month celebration, and City Council's been working hard on this, and actually all the states on the route. For us, we have sort of a vision and a challenge. The challenge is we have the longest stretch of Route 66 in the country. So a lot of cities will fix up one block and festoon lightings and kind of paint things, and we'd love to do that for all 19 miles. But it's so big here, as you can see, it's a different problem depending on the neighborhood that we're in. So one is we want to make it as safe as possible. That, number one, is what our goal is. We also want to make it clean. And so we've been increasing those efforts, but it is a massive challenge. In fact, the challenge is a decades-old challenge. But part of it is making sure that we do not have these hubs of either inhumane living conditions or criminal activity dotting up and down Central. So this is absolutely part of it, but the broader vision is to have the neon signs back, to have it safe, to have it vibrant, and to have businesses coming back to Route 66. Now we know in parts of Route 66 that's true. And even if you look at like Central and Unser and what we've been able to do with the new food court there are pieces that show signs of resurgence, but there's also pieces that are in deep, deep trouble, like this one. And that's why we tried to help today.
We'll do one from Kirakui and then back to Sasha.
So what's going to be the future of this location? Is the city going to take it over? And what could possibly happen from this point?
This is a private property owned by a private owner, and so the answer is it depends on whether that owner is able to rehabilitate the property, make it habitable, operate it properly and legally, which means as a hotel, not as an illegal apartment or anything else, clandestine like it was being used currently. So a lot of that depends on where the owner can do what good owners are supposed to do.
And Mayor, this might be for you or even Chief Medina. You know, this isn't the first time we talked about this issue. We talked about Tewa Lodge. Can you give us an update on Tewa Lodge and Adams Food Market? You guys made that a nuisance property maybe a year or two ago. Just the latest on Adams Food Market if you're trying to do the same to those two places.
I go first. So, what we ideally want is what our planning director spoke to, which is, we support the owner in renovating the property and making it an asset for the community. That's always the first goal. The challenge is sometimes they're not able to. We do know that we've seen successes like Luna Lodge and also the Sundowner right down the street. These are two examples of hotels that we converted as a city with partners to apartments and that are now great places to live. And so that's another vision that we have and what we want to support. But when they can't do it, sometimes we condemn properties and we bulldoze them. And so that's no different whether it's a hotel or whether it's a dilapidated house. So that's certainly a path where at least we have a vacant lot that can then be redeveloped. So that's one other path. But what we're doing with these properties now is the first thing is we want to make sure they are safe. And so that's what like the Tewa Lodge situation is right now, and now what this one is going to be in. So that's step one. Then we bring in the economic development folks and the real estate folks to try and see what we can do. I would add this though with some of these properties. Some of them are amazing. Like the Tewa Lodge is a historic building. It's awesome. I mean, that's something we want to salvage and make an asset very, very much. But it does take a partnership, and we have to have a willing partner in the private sector.
It's a difficult question at times to kind of be able to explain what is occurring with some of these locations. And, I got to always be careful because somebody gets upset and they're mad that I'm picking on certain locations. But there are locations that we've worked with in the past that are still criminal activity is occurring. And my commitment is we won't stop working on this. It takes us time to find new angles. Law enforcement is consistently changing. And the things we used to do to close places down 30 years ago when I started, some of them still work, some of them don't. But we're finding new ways to address issues. And there'll be more that comes out in the near future where people are going to scratch their head and say, that's a pretty innovative way to think and to get to the bottom of some of the issues that we're having. And we will continue to find innovative ways to get to those locations. And it may not be today, but I will tell you that during the course of my career, there's a number of locations that I could remember off the top of my head that it took us years to be able to tear down. And some of those locations were here on this stretch of roadway. I remember it was years for us to be able to finally get to the hotel that was on the other side here, right where Talon Market is, So it isn't an easy process, but the community has our commitment that we will continue to have arrests at those locations each and every day. And any location that is at question that people think have been problematic, reach out to us. And we're more than happy to show the data of the amount of times we've been there, the proactive resources that we've placed there, and the number of arrests that we've executed at those locations.
All right, I think we have time for one more from Matt.
So there were 19 people living here yesterday, or 19 were contacted?
But how many?
people? How many people were living here yesterday? 8 people? Like just people wise?
Oh, how many people? Yeah.
I can say that ACS encountered 19 people. For how many people were here before or had vacated before we responded? ACS encountered 19 individuals.
So where did some of them accept shelter? Where did they go?
Yes, 17 of them were transported by our teams. One of them refused and said that they had a place to go and didn't want help. And then, so we'll continue to work with the 17 that were transported, and we'll walk them through the. I don't know that it's appropriate for us to say where they went to, because that's disclosing their location. But they're in a safe, secure space with a roof over their head and a warm place to stay. It's not a shelter. It's not a shelter.
All right. Well, thanks again all for coming out. Have a good rest of your day.